African Descendants Declaration of Self-Determination. By the token of time, human history makes it necessary for one people to modify the political bonds which have connected them with another, and to take control of the powers granted by the Creator of the earth. For the separate and equal status to which the laws of nature and nations give rise, human decency requires respect for all rights declared and for the causes which compel them to assert the right to self-determination. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all humans are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness and self-determination. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among human beings, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form, as to them shall seem most likely to affect their peace and security. Common sense, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for frivolous and transient reasons, and accordingly, world history has shown that humankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to redeem themselves by abolishing the abuses to which they are accustomed. But when a long history of genocide, enslavement, domestic colonization, lynching, forced immigration, forced assimilation, ethnocide, rape, torture, police brutality, murder and discrimination, pursuing invariably the same objective, it evidences a design to reduce them under absolute despotism. It is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government, and to provide for the restitution, compensation, rehabilitation, safeguards and protections for the people's future security and self-determination. Such has been the patient sufferance of the African descendant nation, known as New Afrikaans by the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Africa, known as the African Diaspora by the African Union, known as Afro-Descendants by the Organization of American States, known as African Descendants by the United Nations, and known as chattel slaves, contraband, 3/5 of a man, colored, Negroes, blacks, second-class citizens, Afro-Americans, and now African-American citizens by the United States of America. Furthermore, among this nation within a nation are people who have already formed nationhood based upon their legal, political and religious right to do so. These and others have the God-given right to separate into lands of their choosing, in the manner of their choosing, yet still confederate with all kinsmen whenever they choose to do so. Within the legal history of the United States of America, there has never been one democratic opportunity granted to the African descendant nation to give their collective consent to governance by use of a plebiscite. The history of the United States of America is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having a direct objective of establishing an absolute hegemony over the African descendant nation. As such, it is now out of necessity that obligates us to alter our former relationship to the systems of government to include our international politico-legal status as an indigenous nation with rights of sovereignty and self-determination within and among the various villages, towns, cities, unincorporated areas, states and federal territories in which the people reside. Let whatever present citizenship rights attained through long years of rebellion and struggle for civil and human rights be implemented in the various subdivisions of government. These citizenship rights shall not be relinquished but shall be in addition to those internationally recognized human rights so established through this Declaration of Self-Determination. To establish our just cause, let the prevailing international law be acknowledged and declared to an empathetic world. Charter of the United Nations and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and its two protocols. Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. Convention on the Elimination of all forms of racial discrimination. Convention on the Suppression and Punishment of the Crime of Apartheid. Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. Convention against torture and other cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. Convention on the Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women and its protocol. Convention on the Rights of the Child, and its two optional protocols. Conventions of Geneva. Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples. Declaration on the Rights of Persons belonging to national or ethnic, religious, and linguistic minorities. Declaration of Basic Principles of Justice for Victims of Crimes and Abuse of Power. United Nations General Assembly Resolutions 1514, 1541, 1654, 2621, 2625, 2708, 3103, 31/30, 35/118, 35/119, 35/120, 47/23, 48/52, 60/147, et al. African Charter on Human and People's Rights. American Convention on Human Rights and its Protocols. Inter-American Convention to Prevent and Punish Torture.